What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about Oberon and my Oberon radiation build. Before we get into that though, real quick, just wanted to say thank you guys so much for all the support on the channel. I really do appreciate all the feedback, and if you're new here and haven't already, subscribe for more. Recently I did make a build on Oberon where we actually replaced his first ability Smite with the helmet ability Eclipse so that we could give him more defense in certain missions and more offense in others. However, his first ability Smite is actually a really good ability, and I really wanted to make a build utilizing this ability, which in turn has led me to create this Oberon radiation build. I'm sure others may have done this out there, but it's definitely an interesting build to say the least, so let's go ahead and get into it. I'm gonna start by talking about Oberon and what he does, and then going over the mods that I like to use. Starting with Oberon's passive. His passive gives companions plus 25% health, shield, and armor links, which does stack additively with link mods, so it's pretty nice. On to his first ability, Smite. Again, in my other build I replaced it, but it's definitely a very important ability for this radiation build. Whenever you use this ability, Oberon smites down enemies in range with light that does 50% impact damage and 50% radiation damage while knocking down enemies and inflicting 100% radiation status, followed by the target emitting orb projectiles that seek out enemies, dealing radiation damage, plus 35% max health and shields divided by the number of orbs. And orbs also inflict puncture while staggering enemies. And on top of that, you could get more damage with this ability by using Eclipse, by using Vigorous Swap, and of course, the more ability strength you have, the stronger this ability will be overall. And to make it even better, we're going to be using the augment mod, Smite Infusion. This augment mod allows Smite to be held on cast, which creates a wave of energy traveling outwards that grants Oberon and allies in range additional radiation damage to their weapons. Now, unfortunately, the augment mod does not boost Smite's damage because it directly affects weapon damage, but as long as you're confident in the weapons you bring, this augment mod will allow you to get even more damage with those weapons. His second ability is called Hollowed Ground. When Oberon uses this ability, he will create flaming grass in an area that does radiation damage while healing status effects of Oberon and allies if they're standing in the grass. And on top of that, standing on the grass and losing status effects applied to you makes you immune to those same status effects as long as you're on the grass. This is going to be a super clutch ability with this build, as we don't have a lot of healing options, as you're about to find out here in a bit. On to the third ability. Now, this one is definitely where the build gets questionable, but yes, we have replaced Renewal, his third ability, you know, his iconic healing ability, with Eclipse. The main reason I did this is because the whole purpose of this build is to do radiation damage and just do massive damage overall. As long as you can stay alive and guaranteed get the health you need, replacing this ability is honestly not even that big of a deal. Of course, you do have to be a lot more careful now that you don't have a heal, but there are still great ways to get health. A little bit of a gamble, you will have to be playing a lot more careful, but in return you'll be doing a lot more damage thanks to Mirage's helmet ability Eclipse. And what this ability does is provide you a buff depending on the light source you're standing in. If you're in the light, you get a buff called Solar Eclipse, and if you're in the dark, you get a buff called Lunar Eclipse. Solar Eclipse provides a multiplicative damage buff for your weapons while you're in the light, and Lunar Eclipse reduces enemy accuracy against you while you're in the dark. This is currently my favorite helmet ability to use. You have a lot of defense and offense potential with this ability, and as mentioned earlier, you can actually buff Smite with Eclipse as long as you're standing in the light, getting a Solar Eclipse buff. And the damage you get with Smite while using Eclipse is honestly really nice. And finally, onto his last ability, which is called Reckoning. This ability lifts enemies into the air and slams them on the ground, applying knockdown and a radiation proc while dealing 50% impact damage and 50% radiation damage that also deals extra damage to enemies affected by radiation. The main reason we kept this ability and didn't replace it is for the armor stripping. This ability can remove armor when you use it on enemies that are standing in hollowed ground, and it can fully remove enemies' armor after 200% ability strength on Oberon. Using Hollowed Ground on enemies and then following that up with Reckoning is a great way for Smite to actually do a lot more damage and potentially get more kills. Especially on non-steel path missions, you just run through enemies, and you definitely don't even need Reckoning on the lower missions, but it's still nice for dealing with enemies that have high armor. Next up, we're going to be talking about mods. I got Blind Rage and Transient Fortitude for extra ability strength, as well as Augur Secrets. Smite Infusion, of course, for the damage damage buff. Vigorous swap so that all of our weapons will be doing more damage on swap, as well as giving more damage to smite. And then I got 3 umbral mods. As far as my arcanes go, I got Molt augmented so that I get increased ability strength per kill, which of course buffs Oberon's abilities. And then I got arcane energized so I can have a good method of consistent energy recovery. And lastly, we're going to be talking about weapons. I like to rock the Arca Plasmor just because it's a good source of radiation damage, the Grimoire for even more energy recovery, and an Exodia Contagion Zaw so that I can do a lot of damage. And yeah guys, that's pretty much going to be it for this video. Let me know what you guys think of this build down below, and if you saw my previous Oberon build, let me know which build you think is better. Or if there's an Oberon build that you personally really enjoy, feel free to let me know in the comments as well. Before this video ends, I know I say it every video, but seriously, guys, I really do appreciate the support on the channel. And if you guys enjoy videos like these, be sure to subscribe for more. And yeah, guys, it's going to be it from me. With that being said, thanks for watching.